Hey everybody, this is Tony here and welcome to another episode of the Sit Down. This isn't usually my thing to do, but there's just been so much going on in the country and really in the world as a whole that I wanted to discuss. And what really has motivated me to do this is I just feel like there aren't enough sane, I guess also self-aware voices out. People are just kind of either in their own bubble or they can't take in new information. It's pretty much close to the same thing, but I just wanted to just give my input on some things, and you all feel free to comment or ask questions or whatever, and I'll try to get to it because I really find the things I'm going to talk about today extremely important to the country and I think society as a whole on this planet. But first thing I want to discuss is the presidential election, and I never really found the presidential election itself to be that important as much as it is kind of a gauge of how we are as a country, as a society. We have two okay choices. I feel like one of the choices for the Democratic Party, at least, was better than the one that we had, but also, even though that selection might have been, to a lot of people, borderline senile, at least he had the experience. Now, who we have on the ticket for the Democratic Party coming up in 2024, she has experience being a VP, but other than that, she really doesn't have a lot of experience in the U.S. government, if that makes sense, at least in Washington. You have Donald Trump, who basically had no experience until he all of a sudden was the president. So depending on how you want to look at things, just based on how you are in your bubble, neither one of these candidates really have good experience, I think. Enough experience, I think, to be running the country. One of them was just basically, both of them were basically just put in the position they're in now. And if Kamala becomes the president, she'll be the second in the last 12 years to basically just be put in this position with little to no experience. But nothing against either candidate, but I wanted to discuss the independent vote. I feel like a lot of people are either not going to turn out or they're going to try and find a candidate that kind of goes with their beliefs. And I know a lot of people say that if you vote for an independent candidate in a two-party system, you're just helping the other party. But I think that's kind of the issue as well. And it's a human nature issue. You never think like, okay, if I start going down this path of kind of creating something that I think is right, and I kind of choose the lesser of two evils. I mean, if you do that for your life, then you're always going to have the lesser of two evils. If you decide, hey, I know we're not going to get this candidate this year, but maybe the next 8 years, 12 years, this can actually be a viable option, might as well start voting now, because you may be voting for the other party, but depending on how dire you think things are in this country, and to me, I don't really think it's that bad. I think you kind of are going either way towards the center just based on each candidate, because a lot of candidates get in there and they say they're going to do this, they're going to do that. And I think the Republicans have a longer track record, at least today's Republicans have a longer track record of doing more, I think, trying to go back in history more than the Democrats, but it's a two-way street as well. Sometimes the Democrats go a little too far trying to, I feel, almost patronize certain demographics for the vote. And maybe it's not for the vote, but that's how it comes off to a lot of people. But if Donald Trump becomes a president again, I don't think it will be as terrible as a lot of people think. But I also wouldn't bet on it either, because he is someone who is, say what you will, he's not your typical Republican candidate, but that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on who you are and basically how his campaign and everybody in his campaign feels. So I do think Kamala Harris is kind of like Hillary Clinton. She's a woman, so a lot of people don't really respect that, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. But also just seeing how, Kamala was a prosecutor, which isn't really always the best view to take, I guess, for people in the Democratic Party or those who tend to vote Democrat. But I also, and you can look at Joe Biden over the years that he's been in office since the 1980s, 1970s, things of that nature. I don't want to say he's necessarily flip-flop on a lot of issues, but he has come to, I feel like, see things from different perspectives. And that's really what you want in anyone who's running the country. You don't want them to just be like, okay, these people over here see things my way, so I'm just going to try and do what we think is right, instead of thinking, hey, these people over here, maybe they didn't vote for me, but maybe I can, see how we can come to terms, or maybe get them to see things from a different perspective. But most importantly, you want to be as self-aware and open-minded as possible when you're in any government space, because especially in the United States, you're not going to have 100% of the people in your particular district, state, country seeing things the way that you'll see them. And I think that's very important, because that's part of the reason that we have so many wars going on, so many issues going on in this country and worldwide, because people don't want to see things from other people's perspectives. And I do think, again, that's important if you want to actually make any real progress in this world.